You know, sometimes I think about how unpredictable workplaces can be. I've had jobs where everything seemed perfectly normal on the surface, but underneath, there were always cracks. Tiny hints that something wasn't right. And that's exactly what happened to Marcus, though what he got dragged into was far darker than anything I've ever experienced. Every time I retell this story, I still get that same uneasy feeling in my chest. Because his situation, honestly, it could happen to anyone. Marcus was the kind of guy who kept to himself, but not in a cold way. He was polite, steady, one of those employees who did everything by the book. People trusted him because he had this calm energy, like nothing could shake him. But that's the ironic part. The calm ones are always the easiest to lure into chaos. Not because they're weak, but because they never see it coming. He had been working at Elbridge Dynamics for almost 2 years, a tech company that looked sleek and futuristic from the outside but felt strangely old-fashioned on the inside. Lots of corporate friendliness masking silent competition, secret alliances, and that ever-present pressure to appear loyal. Marcus didn't care about any of that. He just wanted stability. A paycheck that arrived on time, a quiet desk, and enough mental space to handle the responsibilities waiting for him at home. See, Marcus had a younger sister, Maya, who relied on him financially after their mother passed away. He never complained, though. If anything, it grounded him. Gave him purpose. But that responsibility also made him vulnerable, and someone at the company knew that. His story really began on a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that feels like a Monday because everything is going wrong at once. Computers freezing, printers jamming, people arguing about deadlines. Marcus had gotten to work early, trying to get ahead of a project that wasn't even his, because apparently being reliable means everyone can dump everything on you. He walked into the finance room to retrieve some reports he printed before leaving the day before. But as soon as he opened the door, he froze. Inside, standing by the wall-length cabinets, was Adrian. Now, if you've ever worked somewhere with that one person who seems untouchable, the one who gets whisper-level respect, the one everyone avoids upsetting, that was Adrian. Officially, he was the senior operations director. Unofficially, he was the guy who made things happen. Not through leadership or inspiration, but through intimidation wrapped in a charming smile. He was young for his position, early 30s, maybe, polished, well-groomed, stylish without trying too hard. People admired him, feared him, envied him. And on that Tuesday morning, Adrian wasn't supposed to be in that room. He didn't even notice Marcus at first. He was hunched over the cabinet drawer with stacks of documents spread across the counter, his movements sharp and frantic. It wasn't the vibe of someone doing routine paperwork. It was the vibe of someone hiding something. When Adrian finally heard the door click behind Marcus, he jerked his head up, eyes wide for half a second before smoothing back into his perfect calm. That moment, that tiny slip, is what made Marcus's stomach drop. "Oh," Adrian said, letting out a casual breath, "didn't realize anyone would be in this early." Marcus tried not to stare. I just came for the reports I printed yesterday." Adrian smiled. But not the friendly kind, the calculating kind. The kind that makes you feel like you walked into a room you shouldn't have been anywhere near. "That's fine," Adrian said, stepping slightly aside, but not enough to reveal what he was working on. "Go ahead." Marcus grabbed the papers quickly, trying not to look nervous. He wasn't even sure what he had witnessed, but every instinct told him something was deeply off. He left the room. But that wasn't the end. Of course it wasn't. People like Adrian don't let coincidences go unchecked. The rest of the morning felt tense. Marcus kept replaying the moment in his head, wondering if he had imagined the urgency on Adrian's face. He hadn't. And by lunchtime, everyone around him seemed normal, but he kept catching Adrian glancing his way during meetings, as if evaluating him. Now, I'm not someone who jumps to conclusions, but when a high-ranking executive keeps looking at you the way a cat watches a mouse, it's never a good sign. After the 1 p.m. departmental meeting, As everyone filtered out of the room, Marcus lingered behind, still gathering his notes. He didn't notice Adrian approaching until he felt a presence right behind him. "Marcus," Adrian said softly, "walk with me." There are sentences that sound harmless but carry a quiet threat depending on who says them. That was one of them. They walked through the hallway in silence until Adrian opened one of the private conference rooms. It was empty. Too empty. Marcus stepped inside because refusing would have made things worse. Adrian closed the door. "You saw me this morning," he said plainly, no pretense, no smile. Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I just walked in to get my papers. I didn't see anything." Adrian tilted his head. "You're honest. I like that. But let's not waste time pretending." He walked around the room slowly, hands clasped behind his back. Marcus stood still, heart pounding. "There are things happening within the company," Adrian continued. "Things that require discretion. And I'm sure you understand how important loyalty is here." Marcus didn't like where this was going. "I mind my own work. That's all." "Exactly." Adrian finally looked at him. "And I'd like to help you continue doing that." He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Thick. Crisp. He didn't hand it to Marcus immediately, he laid it gently on the conference table between them. "I need you to forget what you saw this morning," Adrian said. "Not question it. Not mention it. Not think about it again." Marcus stared at the envelope. He didn't want to know what was inside, but he already knew. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Because you're predictable," Adrian said without hesitation. "You keep your head down. You don't gossip. You mind your business. Which means you're the perfect person to rely on. You understand discretion. But I also understand responsibility." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Your sister. Maya, isn't it?" That made Marcus's blood run cold. Adrian knew. He leaned in closer. "Life can get expensive. I'm offering you breathing room." Marcus stayed silent. He didn't trust himself to speak. Adrian tapped the envelope. "Take it. Go home early today. Think about how simple this can be." He stepped back, gave one last measured smile, and left the room. Marcus didn't move for a long time. He didn't open the envelope. He couldn't even look at it. It felt like poison sitting there. Like a trap disguised as a gift. When he finally picked it up, his hands were shaking. The rest of the day blurred past him. Office chatter felt distant. People laughed. Phones rang. Printers hummed. But Marcus barely heard any of it. His mind was stuck replaying every word Adrian said. "I know about your sister." That line echoed over and over. He went home early, just like Adrian suggested. When he got to his apartment, he tossed the envelope on the kitchen counter and stared at it like it might explode. He paced for 10 minutes before finally tearing it open. Inside was a stack of bills. Thick, crisp, unmistakably real. And a note. "Consider this a gesture of trust." There was no signature. None was needed. Marcus felt sick. He didn't want to be part of whatever this was. But refusing wasn't really an option now. Adrian had targeted him with precision. He knew Marcus's life, his vulnerabilities, his struggles. And people like Adrian didn't make casual offers. Marcus didn't sleep that night. His thoughts spiraled into dark possibilities: blackmail, manipulation, legal consequences, threats. What if Adrian blamed him for something later? What if refusing made him an enemy? What if accepting trapped him permanently? By morning, Marcus still didn't have an answer. The next day at work, nothing felt normal. Even the sunlight coming through the cafeteria windows felt harsh, exposing, like it was illuminating him specifically. He kept expecting someone to walk up and accuse him of something he hadn't even done. And then he saw Adrian again. Standing in the hallway, talking casually with another manager. When their eyes met, Adrian lifted his chin just slightly. A silent question. "Did you accept?" Marcus looked away. He didn't give an answer. Not yet. But the pressure didn't ease. If anything, it escalated throughout the day. Little things shifted. Co-workers seemed to watch him more. His supervisor asked for updates on tasks he usually handled independently. IT ran a routine audit on employee systems. Or so they claimed. It all felt too coordinated. As if Adrian was already tightening invisible strings around him. At one point, Marcus found a small note on his desk, no handwriting, just printed text. "Let's talk soon." No signature. Again, none needed. Now, I've never been a paranoid person, but if I were in Marcus's shoes, yeah, I'd be terrified. And maybe that's why this story sticks with me, because he wasn't looking for drama. He wasn't ambitious, wasn't reckless, wasn't curious. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And the more he tried to escape the situation, the deeper it swallowed him. That afternoon, Marcus made a decision. He wasn't going to accept the money. He wasn't going to be part of whatever Adrian was hiding. He rehearsed explanations in his head all day. "I didn't see anything. I'm not comfortable with this. I just want to do my job." But fate doesn't wait for perfect timing. At 5:14 p.m., as he was packing up to leave, Adrian appeared behind him again. "Walk with me," Adrian said, same tone, same quiet authority. Marcus didn't want to, but refusing wasn't an option. They walked to a secluded area behind the elevators, where the security cameras didn't reach. Adrian leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You opened the envelope," he said. Marcus froze. "How do you?" Adrian smirked. "Predictable, remember?" Marcus swallowed hard. "I can't take it. I don't want any part of this. I didn't see anything, and even if I had, it's none of my business. I just want to focus on my work." "Marcus," Adrian said softly, tilting his head, "you've already taken part." "I didn't." Adrian stepped closer. Too close. "You opened the envelope. You touched the money. You kept it in your apartment overnight." He paused, letting the meaning sink in. "That's involvement." Marcus felt dizzy. Trapped. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered. "Exactly," Adrian said. "Which makes you reliable. Because predictable men with responsibilities don't cause chaos. They avoid it." He placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You will keep quiet. And in return, I'll make sure life gets easier for you." Marcus couldn't breathe. Every instinct told him that refusing wasn't just unwise, it was dangerous. Before he could say anything, Adrian lowered his voice even more. "But don't mistake this for a threat. You're a smart man. You know how the world works. Loyalty is everything." Then Adrian walked away. Marcus stood frozen in the hallway long after he left, feeling like the ground beneath him had shifted entirely. Like he had stepped into a world where rules didn't matter, only leverage did. And Adrian had plenty of leverage. That night, Marcus didn't go straight home. He drove aimlessly for over an hour, trying to calm the storm inside his mind. He even pulled into a grocery store parking lot at one point and sat there in silence, watching people walk to their cars as if the world hadn't just turned upside down for him. He wondered if he should go to HR, but HR couldn't touch someone like Adrian. People had tried before. Those people didn't work there anymore. He wondered if he should go to the police. But what would he say? A powerful man gave me money for silence. He had no proof of wrongdoing. No evidence. And Adrian was connected, deeply connected. So Marcus drove home feeling like a man trapped in a maze with only dead ends. When he walked into his apartment, he saw the envelope still on the counter. He stared at it long enough that the room around him faded. The money wasn't just money anymore. It was a symbol. A reminder. A chain. He shoved it into a drawer, buried under piles of papers. He didn't want to see it again. But hiding something doesn't make it disappear. And Marcus had no idea, truly no idea, how much worse things were going to get. I always say this, when someone powerful wants you quiet, the silence isn't really optional. Even if you try to escape it, it follows you home, sits in your car, stands behind you in every elevator ride. And that's exactly how Marcus felt the morning after his conversation with Adrian. Like he wasn't just being watched, like he was being measured. He woke up exhausted, the kind of fatigue that sits under your ribs and makes even breathing feel heavy. All night he kept turning over the same thoughts. The envelope. Adrian's words. The impossible choice he never asked for. He got dressed slowly, forcing himself through the motions. Maybe if he pretended things were normal, his mind would follow. But the truth was, nothing felt normal anymore. When he got to work, he parked his car and sat there for a moment, staring at the building. Funny how a place can look identical but feel completely different. He used to see it as stability. Now it looked like a cage. Inside, people greeted him like usual. Smiled. Nodded. Said his name. But every "good morning" felt suspicious. Every glance felt like a question. Did they know? Were they involved? Were they waiting for him to slip? Maybe I'm more paranoid than I'd like to admit, because if I were in his shoes, I'd probably be just as tense. When you discover you're a piece on someone else's board, you start imagining checkmates everywhere. Around mid-morning, Marcus saw something that made his stomach twist. Two men in suits, not employees, not contractors, walked into Adrian's office. They didn't knock. They didn't smile. They just entered like they belonged there. Adrian closed the door behind them. For the next hour, the hallway felt heavier. Thicker. People kept glancing at that closed door. But no one dared to ask questions. Marcus pretended to focus on his screen, but his mind was racing. Who were those men? Were they partners? Investigators? Enforcers? Whatever they were, Marcus had the horrible feeling they were connected to what Adrian was hiding. And maybe even connected to him now, indirectly, just because he'd seen something he shouldn't have. Around noon, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated before answering. Marcus, a voice said. Not Adrian's. Calm. Deep. Unfamiliar. Conference room 3. Now. The call ended. Marcus felt his body tense. He checked the office around him, half expecting someone to be watching, but no one seemed aware. Conference room 3 was at the far end of the building. The quietest wing. No one really used it except for private meetings. He walked slowly, rehearsing every possible scenario in his mind, until he reached the door and paused. He took a breath and pushed it open. Inside were the two men he'd seen earlier. Both in dark suits, both expressionless. Adrian wasn't there. Close the door, one of them said. Marcus obeyed, because what else could he do? One man sat while the other stood. They didn't offer Marcus a seat, which already told him everything about the power dynamic in that room. You saw something yesterday, the seated man said. We need to confirm what you understood. Marcus's heart pounded. I don't know anything. I just walked into the wrong room. That's the issue, the man said. You walked into a room you were not meant to enter. The other man stepped closer. And because of that, you've been noticed. Marcus swallowed hard. I didn't ask for any of this. Correct, the seated man replied. which makes your position clearer. You will follow instructions. You will remain silent. And in return, Adrian will take care of you. Marcus clenched his jaw. What is he involved in? Both men looked at each other briefly, a silent exchange, before the standing one said, "Your concern should not be the nature of Adrian's responsibilities. Your concern is your sister." That made Marcus tense immediately. The seated man tapped a folder on the table. Maya goes to Carlton Elementary. 4th grade. Good student. Walks home with her friend Jenna. Marcus's breath hitched. His face went cold. "No," he whispered. "No, don't involve her." "We are not involving her," the man said calmly. "We are simply aware of her existence. People who work with Adrian must be understood fully." Marcus felt like vomiting. "I'm not working with Adrian." The standing man shook his head slowly. "You already are. And you will continue to." Marcus couldn't speak. His voice was gone. His knees felt weak. Then the seated man pushed the folder closer to him. "In this envelope is a document you will deliver to the compliance department at 4:30 p.m. today. You will not open it. You will not read it. You will simply hand it over." Marcus stared at it. A single manila envelope. Exactly like the one with the money. "What is it?" he asked. "Not your concern," the man replied. Marcus shook his head, whispering, "I can't." But the standing man cut him off. "You can. And you will." Marcus closed his eyes. He wasn't strong enough to fight this. Not when they knew everything about his sister. He reached out and took the envelope, because refusing meant risking her safety. And no matter how scared he was, Maya meant everything to him. As soon as his fingers touched the envelope, both men stood. "This conversation never happened," the seated man said. "And from now on," the standing one added, "pay attention to your surroundings." They walked out of the room, leaving Marcus alone with the envelope. He sat down, finally, because his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. He felt like he had crossed an invisible line. A point of no return. He didn't know what was inside the envelope. He didn't want to know. But he knew, deep down, that it wasn't something innocent. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Marcus didn't speak to anyone. He didn't eat. He didn't even type properly. His mind was stuck in survival mode. When 4:30 approached, he forced himself to stand, grabbed the envelope, and walked to the compliance department. Just handing it over should have been simple. Except, the moment he entered the hallway leading to the compliance office, something felt off. Too quiet. Too empty. He reached the office door and knocked. No answer. He pushed it open. Inside, the room was empty, lights on, computers running, coffee cups on desks, but no people. Like everyone had vanished midday. Marcus took a step inside, hesitation rising in his chest. He placed the envelope on the main desk. As he turned to leave, a voice behind him made him freeze. "That's not where it goes." He spun around. A woman stood at the doorway. Sharp suit. Sharp eyes. Someone he'd never seen before. "Compliance deliveries go to me directly," she said. Marcus didn't know what to say. His heart was beating too fast. She walked toward him, heels tapping softly on the floor. "Let me see it." Marcus hesitated, remembering the men's warning. But refusing wasn't an option. He handed it to her. She studied the envelope, then looked at him differently. Not suspiciously, analytically. As if assessing him. "Who gave you this?" she asked. Marcus swallowed hard. "I was told to deliver it." "By whom?" He couldn't answer that. She noticed his silence. "You're sweating," she said. "And your pupils are dilated. You're scared." Marcus stepped back. I don't want problems. I just want to work. The woman's expression changed, only slightly, but enough to signal something. Recognition, maybe. Or calculation. You didn't open this? She asked. No. Good. Her tone softened just a fraction. Go home for today, Marcus. He froze. How do you know my name? She paused at the question, not in a threatening way. More like someone who realized they'd revealed too much. Go home, she repeated quietly. Now. Marcus didn't argue. He left the office, nerves frayed, mind spinning. And for the rest of that day, he felt like he was being followed. On the elevator ride down, he noticed a man in the corner staring at him. At the parking lot, another stood near a car talking into a phone, glancing at him twice. When he finally got to his own car, his hands were shaking so badly he dropped his keys. He drove home fast, but carefully. Checking mirrors. Checking blind spots. Checking everything. When he stepped inside his apartment, he locked the door twice. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number again. He almost threw the phone across the room. But he answered. Good work, Adrian said. Marcus gripped the phone tighter. What was in that envelope? Silence. Then. Something above your clearance. Something you don't need to worry about. You did your job. That's what matters. Marcus felt both relief and dread. Are we done? For now, Adrian said. But Marcus, understand this. You've proven yourself useful. And I don't like losing useful people. The call ended. Marcus sat down on the kitchen floor and held his head in his hands. He knew this wasn't the end. He knew this was just the beginning. And he was right. Over the next week, small things changed around him. Compliance staff whispered more quietly when he walked by. IT avoided eye contact. Managers seemed tense. But the biggest shift came on Friday morning. When Marcus arrived at work, the building felt wrong. Quiet. Half-lit. People standing in clusters whispering urgently. When he reached his floor, he froze. 2 security guards were sealing Adrian's office door with tape. Inside, through the glass, Marcus saw boxes being removed. Files. Electronics. Hard drives. Then he saw the woman from compliance, the one with sharp eyes, overseeing everything. Marcus's pulse spiked. A coworker whispered behind him, they're investigating him. Something huge. Another added, they say he was involved in transactions off the books. And then someone else whispered, they're looking at people connected to him. Marcus felt the ground disappear beneath him. Connected to him. That meant Marcus. He backed away from the hallway, mind spinning. He needed to get out. He needed air. He needed Marcus. The woman from compliance was standing directly behind him. He didn't know how she moved so quietly. We need to talk, she said. He didn't argue. He followed her into an empty office. His hands were cold. His breath shallow. She closed the door. I'm going to say this once, she said calmly. You are not under investigation. Marcus closed his eyes, relief washing over him, until she added. But you are in danger. He opened his eyes fast. Adrian didn't trust many people, she continued. But he trusted you enough to use you. That makes you valuable. Not to us. To the people behind him. Marcus felt sick. So, what do I do? He whispered. You cooperate fully with the internal investigation, she said. And you stay away from anything Adrian gave you. Anything. I don't have anything, Marcus insisted. Except. He stopped. The envelope with the money. The woman tilted her head. Except what? Marcus hesitated. But lying wouldn't save him. He gave me money. Her expression didn't change, but he could tell she already suspected it. Where is it? At home, he said quietly. She nodded once. Bring it to me. Today. No one else. Understand? Marcus nodded. She looked at him for a long moment before saying, "You were unlucky, Marcus. But you're not a bad person. Try not to make this worse for yourself." She left the room, leaving him with a truth he couldn't escape. He was tangled in something far bigger than Adrian. And Adrian wasn't even the top of the chain. When he got home later, he went straight to the drawer with the envelope of money. But it was gone. Completely gone. The papers above it were untouched. Nothing else in the drawer had moved. Just the envelope. Marcus staggered back, pulse pounding. Someone had been in his apartment. Someone who knew exactly what to take. His phone buzzed. Another unknown number. With trembling fingers, Marcus answered. A low voice said, "Your debt with Adrian is settled. But your silence isn't." Before Marcus could respond, the call ended. He dropped the phone. This wasn't Adrian anymore. This was someone bigger. Someone unseen. Someone who now owned his silence. And Marcus, just an ordinary guy who wanted a peaceful life, realized something devastating. He was never getting out of this. Not clean. Not safely. Maybe not ever. He sat on his couch, staring at the shadows in his apartment, and for the first time, he felt fully, overwhelmingly powerless. And that's the part of Marcus's story that stays with me the most. Because sometimes it isn't the villains who break you, it's the systems behind them. The invisible hands. The ones you never meet, but that know everything about you. Watching him try to stay afloat in a world he never chose, it makes you wonder how many people out there are trapped the same way, silently carrying the weight of choices that weren't theirs to begin with. Sometimes I think about Marcus when I'm sitting alone at night. How one random Tuesday morning turned his whole life into a maze of threats and shadows. And how even now, he still lives with the fear of a phone that might ring at any moment. And maybe that's the real tragedy of his story, not the money, not the threats, not even Adrian. But the silence. The kind that doesn't protect you. The kind that controls you. The kind you can't escape. Not when someone else owns it. Marcus learned the hard way that some secrets don't stay buried. They stay alive. And they watch you. And even now, he still checks his door twice every night, just to make sure no one came back for what they left behind in his life. Stories like Marcus's remind me how easily an ordinary life can slip into darkness without warning. One wrong place, one wrong moment, and suddenly you're tied to secrets that were never meant to be yours. Whenever I think about him sitting in that quiet apartment, waiting for a phone that might ring again, it hits me how fragile safety really is. And I guess that's why I wanted to share this, not just as a story, but as a reminder. Sometimes the scariest things aren't the threats you hear, but the ones that stay silent.